$2.3 million. And so that will obviously be one that's an outlier. Recognition of public handbooks. This is a summary of the changes to the handbooks. And this is literally every handbook that we have in elementary, the revisions at the elementary schools, at R.D. Wilson, and at Evergreen and middle school. Then the registration information, the student medical excuse forms, the coaches and advisors handbooks, all of those, and the sports and student activities handbook. What was printed here are solely the changes that happened to the handbooks. Last year we printed all the handbooks and there was a stack about like that. If you would like us to print them for you, let us know, we'll get them to you. They're all available on the website, so in PDF format. So if you don't want 150 pages and you want to go to the website, great. If you do want a paper, let us know. We'll get it to you, tomorrow, the next day, so you have some time to read through things. But this was a summary of all items that are being recommended to be changed for the approvals of the handbooks for the start of school. Service contracts, there's a large number of service contracts. Rose, there's the elevators, time clocks.
Right, elevators, fire alarm system and clocks, security system at Evergreen, and then a wheelchair lift and generator service at Evergreen. So there'll be an attachment, it'll be in your agenda. But I list the amounts for 16-17, what they were in 15-16, and just if there's an increase or no change, I have that listed on the report. So that'll be in your agenda once I finalize it.
Okay. The authorization on item 12 is for the payment of interest and principal on all the bond payments for the year. Transportation contracts, because I'm revamping all of them, and we'll talk about the full-time personnel person in the executive session, the recommendation for that as well. Quite honestly, I'm behind at about 3 weeks worth of work to revamp all of them, and there's not a board meeting between now and September 6th to start. So what I'm asking for is an authorization for me to award the contracts and then bring them for final approval on the September 6th committee meeting for final approval on whatever that next date is, 12th or 13th. Okay, and that's a big job. Maybe a little bit more than I could bite off at the same time with the construction, but that's going well. And we did meet with all the transportation contractors individually, told them what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, and everybody's on board and very appreciative of being part of the process, as well as we'll be appointing a new person hopefully at Monday night's meeting as the full-time transportation coordinator. Instead of having 3 part-times, we're going to have 1 full-time. We talked about that, but I'll go over that in the executive session from a personnel standpoint. Transportation contract, Brian Field did get added after the fact. We had a special needs student that ended up having to go to the Jefferson Center for a short period of time, July 6th to August 5th. The PATH agreement PATH is one of our alternative treatment facilities. They operate out of the old state police barracks on 191. It's a slight increase compared to last year. That program houses a lot of kids who just aren't capable of being in a public school setting with other students, and that's one of the alternative locations that we do. Meadow Psychiatric is where I provide psychiatric services on an as-needed basis for us, and we don't generally use them a whole lot, but we do need every once in a while to have a psychiatric evaluation as part of an IEP or in process in getting an IEP together, so they're on board. I don't think, in fact, last year I don't think we used them at all.
No, we don't use them often.
Right, but we have them if we do need them at $60 per day for services. The IP is Victims Intervention Program, which is a funded agency through the county and a nonprofit. They do provide us quite a large number of things educationally. They're part of our student assistance program. They do some grief counseling. They do crisis intervention counseling for us.
Drug and alcohol.
Yeah, and that is a significant increase. They got their state funding cut pretty dramatically. Last year they asked us for $5,000 last year as well, and we said we can't afford it. They went 2 years with losing funding through the state program, and this year asked us to, that they absolutely, to stay afloat, they need to get a $5,000 annual contract for us, and we do use them extensively. Personnel, we do have, there'll be the substitute list of everybody who's eligible and has met all the guidelines. That is a enormous list that will be attached in your mailing that comes to you on Thursday. Then the other personnel items, we have a transfer in the cafeteria from the high school to Evergreen. That's Lisa Stanchik. And then because of her transferring there's been advertising out there for this position, and we'll go over that in the executive session as well with the appointments that we're going to be recommending for that, as well as the appointment for the 12-month food service secretary, which is a replacement of a retirement. And the first one, the transfer, was due to a retirement as well at Evergreen. Then the transportation administrative assistant that I just spoke about. Then we're looking at, item F is we have a person who's very, very ill, and their FMLA expired, and instead of us eliminating the position completely for that person, we're holding it open for her for 6 more months at no pay, and she's going to pay the benefits, but there's one more procedure for that individual that is going to be short-term, and we don't, because of the FMLA, with the seriousness of what she was going through health-wise, we didn't want to terminate her, and then a month later have her available to be back. So we're just extending that for a 6-month period at no pay, and she's going to have to pay for her benefits, but we're retaining and keeping her job open for her. And then after a 6-month period, if she isn't better, then we would either have to do another extension or terminate her and find a new employee. But because of the timing of the current situation, we felt it was in our best interest and fair and reasonable just to keep the job open for 6 months. Salary adjustment of the person we hired last meeting for middle school autistic support. I erred and had it listed as step 1M, and Elizabeth Bullish was actually step 2, which I believe is $600 or $800 more. I know it's in that range. So that was so we hired her. So that's just a clarification to make it higher at 2M instead of 1M. All of the student assistance trained team members are listed. That is a position. Those are unpaid positions as of right now. But those are all the people who have gone through the student assistance training, 39 people in the school district, and that's primarily crisis intervention. Then a bunch of volunteers, including mostly Evergreen people from the community, come in to volunteer to read with kids and do some volunteering at Evergreen. And then there were a couple of coaches, Tom Howe for golf and Andrew Rickard for boys basketball on a voluntary basis. We do have a student teacher, Jennifer Miller, and she's going to do 2 stints, one at Evergreen for the first semester and second semester at a different location. And then all the remaining dates so it's not a very big agenda. Those are all the items. If you have any questions or comments regarding any of those, that's the agenda. I wanted to give everybody an update on the construction process, which is in full bore right now. The R.D. Wilson paving is completed, the shoulder work is not. That will be completed this week, that's been painted as well. The ongoing big changing over of the lighting at R.D. Wilson is about half done, and it's about a third done in the high school, middle school complex. The middle school roof is completed, and about half of the high school roof is completed. Obviously, we got out of school very early. When the roofing company came in and worked from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 2 in the morning while school was going on, so they got a big jump on that. So the roofing people are nearly 3 weeks ahead of schedule. And they've been a very, very good contractor. And the overall coordination has been excellent with all the contractors. The paving is ongoing here. We just finished and painted the middle school. Final coat is done at the middle school from a paving standpoint. Binder is down just about everywhere except the main entrance. Was that open coming in today?
Yes.
Was it? I would assume it
You
not.
call it that.
I'm assuming it washed out pretty hard.
And as far as the strategies, but they did.
Okay, because
It washed.
the catch basins are 3 or 4 inches above the modified right now, so I was figuring the water would have nowhere to go. But that is, we're about 2 weeks ahead of schedule on the paving portion. Back to R.D. Wilson, the new boilers are installed, and the existing dual fuel heads have been installed. All the controls that went from pneumatic to electronic are in place for that. The only thing that we're not ahead of schedule, and actually we're behind a couple weeks, is unit ventilators for the air conditioning and heating system at the R.D. Wilson. We ordered them in February. They are being scheduled for delivery August 18th. So they did all the piping and plumbing and valve work and electrical work and control work to those units. All the units are out. I believe there's 42 of them, and they're going to send a truck to Arlington, Virginia on the 18th to bring all 42 of them in. They said it's somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours per unit to install them, and the expectation is, they told us, no matter what, will be done by September 2nd. I said, school's September 6th, and if we find ourselves in the 2nd and 3rd week, or 3rd and 4th week of August, they were more than willing to go to 2. They're going to go to 2 shifts, and they'll be more than willing to go to 3 if they have to. And then the follow-up with the controls people will be another week. So there's a good chance that they won't be completely balanced, but the expectation is they will be installed. They're going to start on the upstairs section. Obviously, the second story is hotter than the first story, and the anticipation is they'll be up and running for the start of school. But worst case, it will be the second week of school. Everything else, gym flooring at the high school is 3/4 ground down. Going to get repainted, refinished. The lighting system is being changed over right now. Lighting interiorly at the high school is about, like I said, about a third done. So overall, the hallways in the middle school, where we took the carpeting out, there's 22,000 square feet of tiled hallway. About 3/4 of that is done as well. Now, that was scheduled to be done and finished, but we're not going to do the final coat and finish on it because the lighting people have to come in and retrofit all the lighting, and they'll just they'll ding it up and make it dirty, and it'll have to be done again. So the last thing that the middle school anticipated to be done, the middle school will be final buff and wax of the new tile. But overall, it's been very good, and it's obviously been a very dry spring and early summer, other than today. So we have had very few rain out days, and those that we did, the roofing company, for example, as hot as it was this weekend, they anticipated a couple of days this week that were going to be thunderstorms, so they worked Saturday and Sunday and on a roof, and it's 95 degrees and 90% humidity. They're making hay while the sun is shining, and so we're overall in very good shape as far as the schedule goes for the construction project. We will be having a job conference with the board members and the contractors the end of the first week of August or beginning of the second. We'll have to coordinate that schedule, and then obviously that's a couple weeks away from now. We'll have a much better idea where we are with everything in the project. So it's going quite well, and the coordination has been very good. Ellen and the Evergreen staff have housed just about everything that we do for the summer. It's been a very hectic time
It's
at
fun.
Evergreen because of the summer school being held there and the transportation contractors, bus inspections, and registration. Everything that we're doing that usually gets spread out amongst 4 buildings is pretty much being done at one. So thank you.
It's fun.
And you know, kids and staff and families have adjusted, and you know, it's for obvious reasons, it's a temporary inconvenience for this summer. So overall, it's excellent. And the contractors, it is a no change order job. There's been a few things that we've added to the project and have been absorbed by the contractors, and there are some items that didn't, we felt weren't absolutely 100% necessarily needed to be done once they showed us it. So there still will be no change orders to the project, and right now we're coming in under budget and ahead of schedule, which usually doesn't happen in school construction. But the process of doing it with an energy conservation project as opposed to bid spec engineers and architects, not only is it cheaper, but it's you can make decisions and move more quickly to make adjustments and not be playing the change order game, which can be very expensive. Okay. Transportation, and any questions on construction? Okay. Transportation system, we did meet with the contractors. We are going to tentatively propose a hire on Monday, lay out the new routes, and it will be, there'll be some significant changes just because of our enrollment and especially on the special education, pre-K and early intervention, because they change so dramatically. You know, finding out that there are a lot of kids that have very long rides, especially up north. And when you go up to lay out the routes, it's pretty obvious a lot of times why they take so long. All you have to do is go drive Yarns Road or Flat Rock Road. And Flat Rock Road, there's a family that lives on it. You have to literally, I had to put my truck in 4